Hello, and welcome to another video with me, your host and guiding light in the eerie night, Lilith Leerie. Today, I want to tell you a story. It's one some of you may know, and one I've told before, but I think it deserves a permanent home here on the channel. This is a personal, long, and emotionally charged story, so please bear with me. This is the story of why I started VTubing. So, I have been a singer and performer all my life. Music has always been a huge outlet of expressing myself, and singing for people is all I have ever wanted to do with my life. And I worked very hard to make sure I could achieve it someday. I was affiliated with a small and local record label. I sang for work. I had public and private shows, and I even worked it into my day job. I never stopped working on my voice. It was my life, and I loved every second of it. That all came to a halt last year in 2024. In October of 2023, I strained my voice. Which we probably all have strained our voices once or twice. And I was working as a scare actor at the time, so I knew that the strenuous work I was putting my voice through would stop after the spooky season. And for a while, I didn't think anything was wrong. However, slowly throughout the winter months, I started to notice I was struggling hitting a few high notes that weren't really usually a problem. Then I would be feeling a bit of discomfort after a long day of projecting at work. Until April of 2024 came, and I could barely speak at a normal volume without vocal pain, and I was losing my voice every single day. Even worse, I could barely sing. I was scared, and I knew something at that point was very, very wrong. My vocal range shrank slowly, but very dramatically. I lost half of my top range. I could barely belt, and my voice had dropped almost half an octave, meaning I was able to sing much lower than my voice should be humanly capable of. Most women actually should be capable of. I went to the EMT to find out I had developed something called muscle tension dysphonia. And what this meant was that my vocal cords and all my other tendons and my neck muscles were locked in a constant cramp. To put into perspective what that might feel like, I couldn't look up or stick my tongue out without feeling an intense, painful stretch down the front of my neck and down my throat. At this point, I was put on a waiting list for a physical therapist and tried everything to keep strain off of my voice, like staying hydrated, drinking warm beverages, and vocal rest. But my voice slowly kept getting worse and worse through April, May, and June. By July, I couldn't sing, and I only spoke at work. And by mid-August, I stopped talking entirely, at work, at home, everywhere. I was completely mute unless absolutely necessary. I couldn't sing, and I stopped listening to music. I couldn't talk to anyone about how I was feeling because it hurt to speak. And to make matters worse, the reason I stopped listening to music, which was my main way of relieving my stress throughout my entire life, just turned into something I couldn't do without feeling an immense sense of dread and a pit in my stomach. It seemed more like a cruel reminder of my situation, and it was the most difficult, scariest time in my life, and the lowest I think I've ever felt, and hopefully will ever be. Thankfully, I started vocal therapy in September and learned even more about my muscle tension dysphonia. I learned that it was something that will unfortunately never go away, and something I have to work very hard to keep under control if I want to continue pursuing singing. I was very meticulous about my healing, and I saw my therapist as often as I could afford to. I had to relearn how to speak, how to breathe, how to sing, how to hold my mouth when I speak and sing, and I made damn sure I was practicing these techniques as often as I possibly could. I also learned that vocal rest would not fix my problem, and in order to heal, I had to speak consistently the way that I had learned to. And the light of the end of the tunnel came in early December when I was told I had healed enough to merit being discharged from therapy, which basically meant I did not have to go to therapy anymore. I could practice the exercises at home and continue healing. Just as that happened, and just as I began to climb out of the dark, the ground shifted again, and I was let go of my long-term job because of my MTD. Losing that final piece of normalcy was incredibly difficult. I ended the year feeling like I was in a free fall, like I had nothing left to lose, and I was grasping aimlessly at anything that could give me a sense of stability. And at that point, it was like something in my brain finally shifted back into a creative gear. I felt inspired again for the first time in years. I started drawing again, telling stories again, and exploring new ideas. I needed something to hold on to while I looked for work that could pay the bills. And that's what led me to VTubing. VTubing quickly became a space where I could share the things I loved with anyone willing to listen. It gave me a reason to keep practicing how to use my voice, to keep creating, and most importantly, to keep hoping for a future that still had room for me. I never would have dreamed it had taken me this far. I'm so glad I chose to share myself in this space, and endlessly grateful to everyone who has been there with me along the way. VTubing has given me hope. It has kept me inspired and has enriched my life in ways I never thought possible. To all of you watching, thank you from the bottom of my heart. The kindness, the support, the generosity that you show to creators like me and to the VTubing community as a whole is nothing short of amazing. I remain in awe of you every day. And that's my story. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and of course, good night, sleep tight, and don't look under your bed tonight.